this dynamic duo I met just a few weeks ago in the hot summer sun of Monroe, Georgia. Welcome, Sam and Ashley, to the Flower Podcast.
Thank you,
Hey.
Scott. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you guys had amazing flowers, and still do. And I know I've even had one of your customers reach out to me recently because I guess they found out that I was there or whatever, and they were just excited about y'all. And
Oh,
yeah, I thought it was great. And it's always nice to connect with farmers that maybe haven't been doing it super long time because it's always a fresh perspective to get um, and just see kind of like how y'all's origin story kind of came about. So we always start at the beginning. And so, how did y'all find your way into the world of flowers?
let me start.
Yeah, go
Okay.
for it.
Okay, so this is my family's farm. We have had this property for about 40 years. So it's about 100 acres. And it's been where I've lived pretty much all of my life. And unless I went to school in Athens for college and then came back. But essentially, I've always lived here. Um, and it's been a horse farm. We've bred horses, we've shown horses. That's kind of where it is. Occasionally cut hay off the property, but never true farming, really. It's really just been literally a horse farm and just somewhere we enjoy being and spending time for my family. So, as my children got older and had more time on my hands, I wanted to bring something to the farm and and to have something potentially for years after for my kids and family. And it's hard to keep a farm and land, essentially, especially where we are now. Everything is growing up around us. So I don't even know. That's kind of where it started about, I guess, what, 5 years ago, thinking about it and bringing Sam into it. Sam came here for the horses.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you want to kind of tell
yeah,
that part.
sure. A few years ago, just kind of out of the blue, my husband and I were looking for a change. And so we were like, what about the East Coast? And I found Ashley on Facebook, and we had one phone call.
One phone call.
And I was like, yeah, you know what? We'll just move there. So we moved across the country, packed it up. We joked that I just had like a tiny little U-Haul and drove all the way across and
It was crazy.
live on the property now. And yeah, so kind of connected with the horses and then kind of grew from that and realized we both love flowers, and now we're here.
Yeah. So I approached Sam, I guess it's been a little over 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and said, hey, I have this crazy idea. And honestly, at the time when I first started thinking about this, because I wanted to grow something here. I mean, we love this farm, we love the land, and I just wanted something more than the horses, which of course we love, but it just needed something else. So I really started thinking about maybe just growing woodies or perennials because we have a ton of trees and like magnolia trees, different things we could potentially sell to florists. I had approached a florist locally, Jeff, who you met, and he said, "Well, why don't you try to grow some flowers as well?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a great idea." And so that kind of started. And I approached Sam and said, "Hey, would you have any interest in doing this with me?" And lo and behold, she didn't even ask questions and just said, yes, I'll do it. And I said, wait a minute, are you sure? Do you have any idea what I want to do? And
Yeah.
she just jumped right in, and that's pretty much where it started.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of the beginning of the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we started doing that. We started learning about annuals. And obviously, I kind of had a good background on perennials. Always been a big plant person. So I had a good idea about that, but really didn't know a lot about cut flower annuals. So I had a lot to learn. We had a
Yeah.
lot to learn
Yeah, for
on
sure.
what to grow, what would grow here. Um, and it has definitely been a learning curve. But that's kind of the gist of the farm.
Well, one of the things that when I saw your flowers for the first time, we first met. I mean, it's like, we go way back now, what, a whole month? And I was just really impressed because for farmers who are on the newer spectrum of farming, and so I didn't ask you that. How many years have you been growing, or did I? Maybe you said and I missed it.
3.
Yeah, this is
3. Okay, this is your third season.
Mhm.
Okay. And so your palette of flowers was really top notch. I mean, usually after the first few years, you still, you're seeing some great flowers quality wise, but not the diversity that you guys were growing. Like foxglove. And I mean, that was one of the things that I was really surprised to find out you'd only been growing a few years. And it looked great. And of course, a lot of the herbs and stuff you did a lot of specialty stuff. So, how many items are you guys growing?
That's a really good question.
Yeah,
We're gonna have
it
to
is.
look at our spreadsheet, and I don't have it in front of us.
Yeah,
A
it's a
lot.
lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Which does kind of pull us in a lot of different directions, but it's helpful because we have space to do it. And that I don't think a lot of people have that. And we are lucky because we do. We're
Yeah.
able to spread out and trial things. And we have areas that are shaded and areas that are full sun. And so it makes it really easy for us to succession plant and delay different varieties like snapdragons or foxgloves. So I couldn't even tell you how many
It's a
different
lot.
varieties. I hate
Yeah.
to say that. We should have figured that out by now, but we did not.
Well, I mean, I just think with that many things, I know there's a trend with some of the older, more established growers, like they're now in that process where they're like, okay, it makes sense for me to maybe grow deeper inventory and fewer items. But I think it depends on your market. So let's start there. Who are you guys selling to?
Honestly, it's a wide variety of different florists we sell to. We have wedding and event florists, and then we also just have like your day-to-day florists. So yeah, we sell to a lot of people in Atlanta, Athens, and then also locally. So,
Yeah, a lot in Atlanta. We deliver a lot there, and the Atlanta florists are both wedding events, every day. So I mean that kind of works really well because they love a variety of flowers, which it does make it a little harder for us right now. So, but I mean, they're always picking the new things. They're always excited about what's coming next. We really do have some great florists to work
we
with.
do.
Well, you guys know I'm very familiar with the Atlanta market, having sold flowers there for 25, 6, 7 years. And I know many of the customers you told me about. I'm like, I know those people.
Yeah.
And they have really great taste in flowers. And and people like you really, I'm happy for them because I know that they're probably like kids in a candy store. And I'm really glad there's a lot more local florists to service that market than not local, but local farmers to service the florists in that area. So I don't know. It makes me excited. So you make these amazing bouquets that I saw. Do you do markets too, or is it just florists?
We do
We do
markets.
some markets. We do the Bloom Festival that you saw in Monroe, and then we'll do like once a month. We'll do the market in Monroe, basically, and sometimes at Covington, which is right down the road.
Just farmers
Okay.
markets. Yeah.
So it's not weekly. It's just like once a month.
Correct. But we also have what we call the Blooming Barn, which is a room at our farm, which is we have a horse barn, and the main room in there we set up on Fridays and Saturdays and have a little retail shop. So we'll make up bouquets and people can just come and pick them up.
Yeah, essentially serves as a farm stand, so people can come in
Right.
and get fresh flowers.
Yeah, we're not even in there. They just pay by Venmo or cash or check or whatever and put it in the money box. So
Wow,
that
that's
makes
great.
it a little bit fun. So
Yeah.
but most of our sales is definitely wholesale.
Yeah.
So florists, not necessarily like wholesale like you do, but florists.
Right. No, I understand. So do you like how many customers do you service?
In our retail?
Yeah. No, like your florist customers.
let me think about that. I mean,
30.
that's what I was gonna say, 25 to 30, I
Yeah.
think right now. So,
Wow.
and we have a lot of I feel like the wedding ones are incredible. Like they just love, we grow a lot of Lysianthus, so they love those.
Mhm.
But a lot of event florists, which just
Yeah.
purchase a lot of flowers at one
They do.
time.
Yeah.
So,
I know sometimes I feel like that's hard though for farmers to deal with event florists because yes, they buy a lot at one time, but do they buy every week? So, you know,
Mhm.
like you may have one customer that has a big wedding this weekend and they're your new best friend, and then next week they don't, and hopefully by
Right.
having 30, you've got another one or two that have a big wedding that
Yeah.
next weekend. Does that work
that's
out pretty
correct. Yeah.
well? I mean,
It
yeah.
works out great.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
typically does.
In fact,
Yeah.
and that'll kind of lead us into, we use Rooted Farmers as a platform
Okay.
online. So we update our inventory once or twice a week,
Usually twice a week. Yeah.
which makes it super easy for them to come in and order, and then we deliver. So it's a great program
Yeah.
for that.
Rooted's been awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really good to work with, and just it makes it easier for the event force to see what we have. There's
Mhm.
pictures. We don't have to, I mean, not that we don't mind communication because we'll text with them or email back and forth, but it just simplifies the process.
Mhm.
So, how many local farmers do you think are on Rooted for that area? Because I know for a long time since Rooted's been a sponsor of ours, and we've been promoting them, and I can't remember. I think when I found out you were on Rooted, I was excited because so many times I'd have people who are like, "I wish we had some, farmers on Rooted in Atlanta or for that area." And when I heard you were doing that now, I was like, "Good for them."
Mhm.
So when we first used it just as an invoicing software. And so we just sent our invoices out to just kind of test it.
Yeah.
And so when we signed up for it, I spoke to, I don't even remember their name, but the people who were doing it. And she said, I don't really have many farmers in that area. I said, that's okay. We're going to give it a try. We're going to just use it for invoicing. We'll see what happens. So this was our first full year of actually using it for our inventory.
Yeah.
And within 1 hour of posting our inventory, we had a florist purchase
It was
flowers.
crazy.
It was crazy. Like we were shocked.
Yeah.
It was really incredible. And so ever since we started posting inventory, we've had more and more florists find us on Rooted.
Yeah.
So
Good.
it's been great. I don't know how many local farmers are on it. I really don't know, but
We've also had a lot of florists that before we used Rooted for everything that have now kind of joined and gotten connected that we sold to before. So it's been good to kind of get them on, and I'm sure they're able to find product from other local farmers too. So that's just been awesome.
Well, I hope so. And I
Yeah.
think for somebody growing as many crops as you guys are growing, it's got to help streamline that whole sales process.
Yeah, for sure.
tremendously.
For sure.
Yeah.
Tremendously. Yep.
And
Yeah.
what days do you deliver to Atlanta?
Mainly on Mondays,
Mhm.
sometimes on Wednesdays or Thursdays. It just kind
Yeah.
of depends on
Yeah.
if anyone wants a second order.
Mhm.
But most of the time, twice a week.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. With everything, it's kind of funny. A lot of times when new growers are starting out, you obviously a lot of the summer annuals are always the first things they start off with, and I'm kind of curious, how do you decide what to grow? Are you getting feedback from customers, or are you just a big flower geek and you just want to grow everything? Or
Kind of a little bit of both.
Yeah.
We really started with the putting in fall. Let's see, what was the first? Snapdragons. That's what we started with at the very first over in the fall.
Yeah.
That was the very first thing we did, that and delphinium,
Mhm.
which also was planted in the fall. Those are the two like spring crops we put in at the very beginning, and then started adding in the next spring more snapdragons and more delphinium and larkspur. I'd always heard that spring obviously is the best time to sell, and I have to say, what was it, in the 1st of February, they were just
Yeah.
like, hey, are we getting flowers anytime
Yeah.
soon? Are we getting flowers? So you just don't realize how much they want the flowers so
Mhm.
early. So but I don't even remember. I totally lost my train of thought. What was you were
How do we
asking?
decide what flowers to grow?
Oh, what flowers to grow. What would you say? I
I
think we
mean,
just researched the heck out of it.
we do a lot of just research and see what, would grow best in this area. And then also we talk to our florists, like there's really open communication. I mean, pretty much every time we deliver to a handful of our florists, they're like, hey, do you grow this or have you considered growing this? And we're like, no, but we will add that to our list and
Try
look it up.
Yeah.
And yeah. So definitely we grow what they want and colors they want. A lot of our wedding florists are like, this is the colors that are trending in weddings, this year. Like this is what we see coming up. And we're like, okay, let's research and see what flowers, are that color, that color scheme. And
Yeah, like for instance, this year one of our florists loves the green dianthus. We've never grown the green dianthus before, so we just ordered a ton of plugs and we're planting that in the fall. Because that one particular florist sells a ton of it. So, and I'm sure the other florists will want it as well because it's just a great,
And sometimes we just see a flower that we think looks cool and we want to try it and we stick it in the ground and see if it sells. Yeah.
It's just fun to try.
Well, that's awesome because I know a lot of times when you find out those kinds of things like trends or colors or weddings that are coming up, it's too late to get something in the ground, or it's it's hard to be proactive in that department. It's
and
great.
It helps because we're together. Like there's two of us, which a lot of people don't have that. Like us, it really takes the load off having both of us work together.
Yeah, always bouncing ideas off each other, and
and we have really helpful husbands as well.
We do.
That's awesome. So I'm curious now that you've said that about the two of you. How do you guys define your roles? Do you guys have separate departments, separate jobs? Everybody does everything? How does that work?
No, we do separate things. I would say a lot of it is together because like field work is tough.
We kind of find the areas that we both do well in. Like Ashley really loves babying the little baby plants, so she takes care of all the seedlings before they go out, and that's like 100% her job. But she doesn't so much love like the updating the inventory on rooted, so I do that. So we just we find ways to balance it out, and then there's a lot of stuff that we just do together. That we just are like, this is a 2-person job. We get it done way quicker than if we were trying to figure it out one person at a time. But we've kind of got a pretty good flow going, just kind of falling into tasks.
Yeah. I mean, we do all our field work together pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because a lot of it's tractor work and bed maker, and sometimes it just takes 2 people to do it. I mean, we do have some part-time, two, sometimes 3 people part-time that work with us to help weed, to help plant, and what else do we have them do? Just typical,
sometimes harvesting
and they'll harvest with us, so that helps a lot as well.
And the husbands pitch in every now and then.
They don't harvest.
No.
They like driving the tractor.
Okay, I get that. Yeah, I can understand that. Well, going back to deciding what to grow, again, you grow so many things. Besides, I'm going to just say, besides sort of the basics, what items do you feel like you're the most excited about that are on the non-normal grow list that your florists are really excited about? Just trying to get into some specifics, because that's probably one of the number one questions I get is, what can I grow, or what should I grow? Or, trying to especially connect with florists, because when you have a farmer's market and that's your primary outlet, that's kind of a different palette of flowers. And I feel like there's way more variety of flowers that florists will just grab up and eat up and love that, maybe they don't even think about.
Have one that you can think of that you like?
I mean, the Lysianthus have been a big one for us. I feel like some people are scared to jump into the Lizzies, but
they're definitely a long-term game if you actually start the seeds yourself, which we do. But those are incredible. Florists love those, and I know that they're more typical. They're kind of typical, but for me, it's the woodies. Those are the plants that I feel like the florists you don't see those as often because people, it's kind of a long-term game on those. Like you have to put them in the
Right.
ground, you have to have the room.
Beauty
Like,
berry is one
yeah,
that,
beauty
yeah.
berry, 200 of those and have those in the ground. Mock orange is another incredible one that
Yeah.
is lovely. So to me, the woodies are something that most flower farmers don't seem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard. You've got to have the space for them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that makes it a little more difficult.
Well, and with Lysianthus, I'm impressed you've chosen to tackle the seed starting route, because to me, Lysianthus is such a long game, long term from seed to flower. When do you guys typically start your seed? Because I know you probably have different successions a little bit.
So we start some in August, the 1st of August, to put in the ground in the fall. And then we'll start some in December to put in the spring. And we soil block those because I've tried to do them in the normal trays and it just does not work. At
They're
least
happy in the soil blocks.
They love the soil blocks.
Yeah.
They're easier to baby in there. You can keep them, just the environment is just a little easier to maintain. And we started out doing both. Like we've bought in plugs and seeded, but honestly, we've got the room. I don't mind babying them. So I've kind of enjoyed growing them. It's been a challenge, honestly.
Yeah.
And they're really not that hard. I don't really find them hard. They just take long.
It's just a long time.
I mean, germination rate's great on them. They're not a problem with that. It's just they take longer.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, and I know they take longer, but I think the one thing is in the fact that they take longer also sometimes means there's more opportunity for, you miss a watering and exactly. There's more of a chance to kill them too. But I mean, a lot of people don't realize how much Lysianthus really being basically an American native, North American native, that it loves the heat. It loves, it actually loves our area. Now, do you grow in high tunnels or are you all open field or?
We have one high tunnel, and we do not grow the lizzies in there. We're growing ranunculus, delphinium, and some mums.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing mums too. So with your mum collection, got to ask this question because it's mum, everyone's busy on mums right now. I know. With that, so how have you decided what to grow with that? Do you get your customers involved or do you just pick what you like or?
With those, we've just picked what we like. We picked a variety of fall colors and soft colors. So, obviously if you want them for weddings or if you want them for fall. So we've just kind of trialed a few different ones. We're still trialing them. We've only had them for a couple of years. So we're just learning which ones do better, which ones, honestly, a lot of it is which ones do better when you take cuttings. I mean, some of them will immediately root. Some of them just sits there and die. So that's been a big player as well. I'm trying to figure out, for me, what's easier to do on that.
That's interesting because
peach color.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
I'm just
colors and burgundies and that, all of that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that feedback because I know that I've done a lot of mom cuttings and I've noticed some varieties are that way, but because I'm not deep into it, I'm not growing for production. I'm just growing so that way I kind of know the process. I am curious about this though, being where you guys are located, where are you guys getting your mom cuttings?
We've gotten them from King. I think that's the company. King Mums is the one that we purchase everything from.
Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed because that's a hard list to get into. So
it is.
Exciting for you guys.
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, that's a hard dance card to get on. So I'm excited for you guys about that. That's awesome. I know when I was also surprised, like you guys were growing Sweet Annie and a lot of herbs. Any herbs that you like? I was surprised about Sweet Annie. To me, Sweet Annie I love that little herb, but it's sometimes too much for people because it's so fragrant and it reseeds really prolifically. And so I'm curious how what herbs you guys are growing.
See, we have obviously, we have
Yeah,
basil,
basil.
the purple
Yeah.
basil, which has been a lot of fun. This is our first year growing it. I
Mhm.
liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really liked it. A lot of people have said it'll wilt easily, and so we haven't used it much in like market bouquets just because we were a little concerned about that.
Yeah.
But we've had event florists purchase
Oh
it.
yeah.
It's
They like it.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sweet Annie,
Yeah.
that
Mint.
typical mint.
Yeah.
What else do
We
we
have the
have?
mountain mint.
We have some mountain mint. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? I feel like I'm missing something.
Herb wise, that's about
That
it.
might, yeah, that
Yeah.
might be it, herb-wise.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I just love having herbs and things because I feel like it adds another dimension with the fragrance, because so many
Yeah.
times
Great.
flowers, don't have that fragrance. And just getting, the wafting of basil or mint or,
Mhm.
and of course,
Oh, I love the smell of basil.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm always telling people at our markets when they can't decide what bouquet to buy, I'm like, smell them and see which one smells the best to you, and then take that one home.
I love that. That's great. I mean, it really is true.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a recipe you follow when you're making bouquets? Or I'm kind of curious about, like, when we saw them,
Yeah.
it was, I see this mix of what I would consider expensive flowers and inexpensive flowers, but a great variety. And I feel like that's another thing that set you guys apart on that market day, just because, you had some different stuff.
Yeah.
We will do we'll do exactly that. We will place a few expensive stems in with the lesser expensive stems.
Yeah.
We also do about 10 of each style.
Yeah.
So we'll just do 10 of each bouquet and then move on to a different color scheme as quick as we can, because obviously you got to move them quick to make it worth it. But that's really kind of the recipe we use.
We usually come up with a method and then Ashley overstuffs the bouquets. So I'm always calling her the overstuffer.
I'm like, yeah, this needs a couple more steps.
So some of them are just, kind of fun and have extra stuff in them. And, they all end up being kind of unique, even though we do kind of try to stick to
And
it.
the other thing that is interesting is you always hear you want bright color flowers at market.
Yeah.
And we've never really done that.
Yeah.
And honestly, we've pretty much sold out at every single market. So I don't know if that's just our flowers. I have no idea, but I mean, I don't love bright colors myself, so I don't tend to lean toward those colors as much. So I was surprised. I just thought, well, let's try the markets and just see if they don't like the soft colors. That's fine, whatever, it doesn't matter. And they bought them.
Yeah, they love them.
I don't know if that's just a myth or maybe in certain areas, but our area is kind of a younger crowd. I feel like we have a lot of young people moving into here, so I think they like the soft flowers.
Well, I think you guys are really, well, I think you guys are really fortunate because, not too far from you guys is Three Porch Farms, and of course there were a lot of other local growers back whenever, and I feel like your population, your consumers, are very educated when it comes to local flowers, and they may have a little more sophisticated palate when it comes to that, where I think a lot of times traditionally at markets, the reason why the bright color scenario works is because it's just bright, it's happy, it's cheerful, people are buying the flowers for themselves. I feel like it's, it draws people in, and I think that's the thinking behind that, and especially with like sunflowers and some things like that. But when your flowers, I felt like, and we're going to share pictures of some things that we took during the Monroe Blooms Flower Festival, so that people can see your stuff. But it was like, it's just very feminine, very different. And I'm glad you brought up the point that you had a variety. I mean, a lot of people have variety of color, but you had kind of like a variety of styles and sizes. What's the most expensive bouquet you sell? Or are they all the same?
40.
40. I think we do a $40 bouquet.
We usually have a 20 and a 40.
So is that your 2 price points, or do you have a lesser one also?
No.
Nope,
That is
that's
our 2
it.
price point.
Yeah.
That's it.
The only
And
thing sometimes we'll sell like a bunch of sunflowers or something like that. That'll usually be around 10.
okay.
And
Well,
it's not your typical like 10 stem bunch.
right, right. Well, I'm thrilled that you're selling $40 bouquets. That's pretty impressive. I know a lot of people are probably like, how do I do that? How do I sell a $40 bouquet? How many stems go into a $40 bouquet?
So, well, here's the thing with a lot of the $40 bouquets. We'll a lot of times do that in a jar, and we kind of target the men because they
Yeah.
seem to like to pick up a jar with water in it, and it makes it easier for
It's
them.
easy.
Yeah. So that's the main one we do that's $40. And there really aren't that many stems in it.
Probably
It's just
30, 35, somewhere
maybe,
in there. Yeah.
And that's a lot of
I bet
stems
it's less than
though.
that. I bet it's less than
It
that.
might be.
Because it's just a, a jar.
Mhm.
So I bet there's less than that, honestly. We would have to look and see,
What
but
size jar?
uh,
Just a regular quart size mason jar.
yeah,
Yeah.
mason jar, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
Well,
able to put a lot of green in there, a lot of filler, and then just add a few focal flowers and some, filler
Yeah.
flowers.
Yeah.
well, I'm glad you said that about greenery because a lot of times, a lot of the farms that are, overstuffing or putting a lot of flowers so they can have a higher perceived value, they forget greenery. And I feel like greenery is so important for,
Oh, yeah.
just having, I don't know, number one, you get to see the flowers better because it's spreading them out. And it also helps kind of drive down that cost per stem, maybe, because foliage is
Definitely does.
sometimes less perceived value. Do you are you growing things just for foliage? I know you mentioned magnolia earlier, but I didn't see a lot of magnolia in those bouquets. So
No, not in the spring and summer, like for the, for Christmas season, magnolia. We do, let's see. I'm trying to think the foliage. What is that one that we use that's kind of a yellowish
The
undertone?
anise.
Anise, we use anise. We have forsythia, which is great.
Yeah,
Like
forsythia is a good
it's been a
filler.
great filler. It's just a beautiful little long stem and it just kind of curls. We use a ton of that. That's been a huge foliage. And of course, different mints and
Yeah, the herbs.
what else have we used? Like I said, we have a lot of different foliages around the farm, so
We
it
grow
makes it easy.
euphorbia.
Oh yeah,
but,
we have euphorbia that we use a lot of.
which euphorbia?
Snow on the mountain.
Okay.
But it's kind of nice. We forage a lot. Oh, we've used sweet gum trees,
Yeah.
Okay.
which has been fun to have. Yeah, the new younger, the younger
The
leaves
brighter
are
green,
really
yeah.
easy. Yeah, they're usually not bug eaten. So we'll forage that around the farm. What's the pokeweed?
Oh yeah, pokeweed.
Pokeweed. We use that.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Okay.
I mean, I know
And
that
it's really
sounds silly.
You get a gold star for saying pokeweed in an episode, so thank you very much.
cute.
I have
What do y'all call
gotten,
it?
well, I call it pokeweed, but I've had abuse over that weed for well over 20 years because it was so funny. I loved it, and I had done. So this is a little history for me. Long time ago, I would forage for some unique things for weddings we were working on, or for special customers, things like that. I had foraged some pokeweed and put it in my garage and forgot about it. And after everything was over with, there was still like a bucket of it in there. Well, it's July, okay? And it's 90 something degrees outside. And in my garage, you can imagine, it was probably over 100. And that pokeweed didn't even blink an eye. It didn't even flinch. And I'm like, there's something here. So I started to forage it, and I'd bring it into the wholesale house because I'm like, y'all have to try this. This is so great. Because the berries were great. The hot pink stem was great. Even the little white flowers are great. I mean, right now is a great time of year for it. And I got so much pushback. And, it's a weed. I can't believe you're bringing that in. I can't believe, and we would sell 5 bunches because that's how rough and tumble it was. And then during that time, we had a designer from Europe come in. She's a English floral educator, And she came in and she was so excited we had that. She was like, I've been all over the United States and nobody ever has this. And we use it in England all the time. It's a great
Oh, wow.
flower. Yeah. And I was like, finally, I feel like I've been seen, you know?
Yeah.
And anyway, and I finally just gave up. I was like, I'm tired of the abuse. It's too much. I just was like, whatever. So then a couple years goes by, and sure enough, here is a Martha Stewart living with a wreath on the front of this issue. And there is pokeweed in this dadgum wreath on Martha Stewart. And I'm like, if Martha Stewart can have pokeweed, I can sure, so I went back to the pokeweed.
You were finally validated.
I was validated. I'm like, so we took it to a whole new level. And honestly, we were probably selling 20 or 30 bunches at the wholesale house a week.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was, I mean, we took it and I didn't care, and people started buying it, and they finally were like, oh my gosh, this stuff holds up. And I think a lot of times, and this is the thing, it's like Solidago. Solidago is a North American, weed that is everywhere. And now we import it, which drives me crazy. And people, so they can have it 52 weeks a year. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with the fact that it is kind of a weed. And I think there's one small area, I'm going to say in California, that pokeweed can be invasive. But overall, it can be a pain. I mean, I know if you're like you said, you had horses, there's, some fields, like with animals and things like that's sometimes a pain to have it. But as far as for cut production, to me, it's, you keep cutting it. It's not that invasive. In fact, I don't think it's invasive at all. And it's just, I don't know. It's just an amazing flower.
It's really pretty in the beginning stages of the berries. Like it's just kind of white before it gets to the purple berry stage, because the purple berries, it just gets messy.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah.
But it's just beautiful, and the bugs hadn't eaten it yet. We actually said this morning, we said, you know what, we should grow like a half acre of this and just see what it does. Because which is silly, like we could do it, but because it kind of grows on the edges of our woods,
right?
And just randomly anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun. We really like it.
Yeah, the florists like it.
The florists love it. Yeah.
Well, I trained the florist in Atlanta all about it. I'm going to take the credit for that. And yeah, thank you. And I mean, because I think we were selling 5-stem bunches, and and they were like 3 feet tall for the most part. I mean, they were big, but when you get that height, they're so branchy. But anyway, okay, so you got the gold star today for using pokeweed. Yes. That's so funny.
And is that a Southern term, by the way? I don't know.
I don't know. So for those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, pokeweed's botanical name is it's Phytolacca americana. And so yes, one of my kids, in fact, my son who does the editing of the podcast, we were pulling weeds one day and in the garden, and he looked down, he's like, Dad, there's a Phytolacca americana. And I'm just like, are you vying for favorite son status? I mean, because we're like, wow, not only did you know what it was, you knew the botanical name. I was like pretty shocked. So anyway, it's pokeweed. Yeah. So I know in some parts of the country, you get farther south, they may call it poke salad, because I know that it was edible. It is edible, but you have to cook it. It is one of those things I would not recommend eating, but
my great grandmother used to make it.
Yeah.
Apparently, my grandmother used to tell me that they would have pokeweed salad.
So anyway, how funny, how unexpected. That was a fun little tour down history lane. Well, I'm really happy to hear that you are now fully using Rooted, because I feel like Rooted is such a great tool. I know there's just so many pieces of that puzzle that it really takes the legwork off of people. Do you? I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd love to dig a little deeper into how you use it.
Sure.
I know that you said you load it up and stuff like that. Do you use the? I think there's an app now that you can, or do you do it on through your phone, like loading up inventory, or how do you
Yeah.
do?
Usually I just open the web page on a browser on my phone and update the inventory like from the field. And then I'll go back and look at everything over on the laptop because it's just easier to see and then send out the list to everybody. But usually our florists are like chomping at the bit. So sometimes they place an order before I'm even finished updating the inventory or something like that. So it's nice to be able to go in and add stuff on too later.
Yeah, don't you hate that? Don't you hate it when they don't even let you finish your job?
Right.
It's a terrible problem to have.
It
Yeah,
is.
no. And they always say that they love, I mean, the platform's great
Yeah.
because and it sounds like I'm a spokesperson for Rooted, but
It's
but it
been
really
awesome.
it's been really good for us. Like
It's
our
helped
florists
us
say,
grow for sure.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely helped us grow. Florists love it. They say it's similar to a wholesaler, so
Mhm.
it's easy. They're familiar with that type of platform, so it works out great for us.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. I mean, so many wholesalers now have gone to some sort of web shop model, and they've trained their customers how to use these web shops.
Mhm.
I kind of makes me a little bit sad because I always enjoyed the personal connection, but
Mhm.
I know that for efficiency's sake, and I know a lot of times people are placing orders in the middle of the night when I'm asleep. So I mean, I get that.
Mhm.
But that's great. I mean, when you are loading things up into the inventory, do you? I feel like sometimes people get nervous about this. Like, how many bunches do I put on?
Oh
Do
gosh.
you wait till you cut it? Do you wait till you cut it, or do you
Oh.
estimate looking at the field? Because these are the things that people want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is why I update the inventory and not actually.
It makes
um,
me crazy. Like it makes me so nervous. So Sam's just like, I'm gonna take care of that.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
oh.
why we update a couple times a week because if we have like I try to update by Thursday or Friday for like our Monday Atlanta deliveries. So I try to look at stuff that's ready to harvest then because we'll typically harvest Sunday night. And so I look at stuff that's ready right then and I count the stems and try to be as accurate as possible. And if anything, like erring on a little bit less. And then
Right.
if last minute they're like, hey, can we add on a couple more bunches? I'll be like, let me go out and count and check and see if we can add that on. And we do. But then, after that big harvest Sunday night and after our Monday delivery, we'll go through and count again for, any orders later in the week. So it just kind of works out best to do it twice a week. Trying to guess how much you'll have available for the whole week is tricky, especially with so many different crops,
Right.
and just kind of having in your head how long it takes, for this to fully open, or is this still going to be, is this going to have gone to seed by the end of the week, or past its prime. So
And
yeah,
it depends on the weather sometimes.
it does.
If it rains,
Yeah.
it can mess up our inventory, or
Mhm.
if it doesn't rain, it can slow things down.
Yeah,
We also
Yeah.
succession plant a lot.
we do.
So that helps us always having fresh crops
Mhm.
coming. So even if we don't have it in the older section, we, got some new coming up. So makes it a little easier to
Does.
figure out what's coming. We definitely, we try to overgrow some
Yeah.
just to have extra things because we're also adding more florists. We're
Mhm.
still in the growing business.
Yeah.
We're still growing this company to get it even bigger than currently is. Like
Yeah.
we're going to add another, what did we say, 3 more acres
Yeah.
next year?
3, 4.
Yeah, 3 to 4 more acres this fall. So we're still learning as well.
Of course. Well, okay, so now I've got a couple more questions. The deliver only because I know the area, delivering to Atlanta, that is a big area. So when you head out on Monday, I mean, are you covering all of Atlanta? Do people meet you someplace? How do you do the logistics on that?
We've gotten really lucky.
Yeah.
A lot of our florists are in one area. And I say one area. I mean, it's, within
A few miles of each
a few
other.
miles of each other, I would say. So it just kind of worked out that,
Mhm.
I mean, we do have some in like Buckhead, and some in like the Glenwood area, if you're familiar
Kennesaw.
with those. We've got one in Kennesaw. So
Yeah.
sometimes we
Yeah,
do
see. Mhm.
that, and it's hard, and that's hard.
Mhm.
So we try to wait till there's a group of at least a couple of florists in one area, because it takes a lot of time to,
Mhm.
to get out and deliver. But
Depending on the order though, if it's a big order, we'll drive, we'll go, or sometimes the florist is willing to meet us halfway. And we also have florists that come and pick up.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I know
which is
there's a lot
great.
of
We love that.
florists. Well, because you're so close to Athens, and
Mhm.
I think that, and there's a lot of stuff going on in like Gwinnett County and things like that that aren't terribly far from you. I mean, I'm sure
Mhm.
that's convenient for a lot of them. Um, so this is always an interesting conversation, but because of what you said, delivery charges. How do you decide what to charge for delivery, and do you charge for delivery?
We actually do not charge for delivery as
Mhm.
long as they meet a minimum.
Yep.
Okay, so what's
I
the
know.
minimum?
Well, 250 is our minimum. However, majority of them order way more than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they're large orders,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've said 250, and really because it's just been easy to the locations for the majority of them.
Mhm.
They're just quick to get around to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It's
just
worked out really
so
well.
far. I mean, if we start getting things spread out all around, we'll probably have to change our policy.
Mhm.
But we have not implemented a delivery charge yet.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I would encourage you to consider it, because I feel like a lot
We
of
are.
times people don't understand the hidden cost of delivery, and it can really eat at the bottom line. And it is convenient that you have a lot of customers in the same area,
Mhm.
because that does feel less painless, because
Yeah.
I know the area you're talking about, but when you start going to Kennesaw, that is probably a good 30 to 45 minutes
Mhm.
away from
The other way,
that
yeah.
area. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then easy 2 hours, well, maybe 2 hours to get back home. There's a lot of drive time there. And so people might be getting upset with me for recommending that. But I just know that, obviously we want farmers like you to be sustainable and to
Mhm.
have your costs covered. And a lot of times people don't realize those hidden costs until they've been doing it a year or two, and they're kind of like, gosh, this is just, if you have to pay somebody for the delivery, the vehicle itself, the gas, insurance, all these things
They do add up.
can add up to be a lot. So so for everyone listening, I'd encourage you to really look at that and really consider it, and be reasonable, because I mean, you know, everybody wants you guys to succeed, because you guys are what make the difference between a lot of business, because you are sort of the gravy to the mashed potatoes. You guys are you guys bring that element. That's an analogy I've never used. You guys bring, you bring that element of diversity, which helps florists stand apart. And I think it's just really important that farmers like you make it and keep growing. Now, you mentioned succession planting, and I know succession planting is a key to a lot of things, especially success when coming to keep making sure you keep rotations and you keep your crops going. It's so daggum hot.
Hot.
I know we are going to be releasing an episode with another farmer that's in Florida, and we're talking about that whole dynamic of working through the heat and how they deal with it. Are you guys do you taper down at all? How do you guys deal with that? Do you just still full steam ahead because you're young, you have the energy, and you're new at it, and you're just gonna keep going?
I don't know if I want to. I mean, we mornings and evenings is when we're mainly out in the field. There's some days where we have to be in there in the middle
Just
of the
go
day.
through.
We
Yeah.
just have to push through some days, but we can't plant crops in the middle of the day, nor do we plant crops in the morning. It's
Or harvest.
impossible. Or harvest. I mean, it's just too hot. So the thing I feel like here in Georgia at this point, we're learning, obviously, is there, I don't feel like there's as many crops that I don't have the diversity of crops this time of year.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it kind of goes down to Celosias and
Gomfrina,
and
zinnias.
zinnias and Jewels of Opar, things like that that can handle the heat. Lizzies are one. Our goal is to have more options for this time of year. Even though everyone says it's slower, I don't really feel like our floor as a whole, our sales have slowed down during this time of
Tiny
year.
little bit,
Maybe.
but not a ton.
Yeah, I feel like there's still a need for the flowers.
Mhm.
So we're trying to just come up with as many options as we can. We just have to split our day. That's really what we do. Like in the middle of the day, we'll seed start or do
Mhm.
paperwork or, I mean,
Yeah.
mainly that's it, or
Yeah.
or crop plan for the next season.
Yep.
So that's what we do during the middle of the day. You just can't plant flowers, baby plants at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Georgia. It's just miserable. They'll fry.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And I think too, the kind of crops you're talking about planting love the heat, like the Celosias and things like that. And one thing you had some of, but I didn't see an overwhelming amount of, is sunflowers. Do you guys grow many sunflowers?
We do.
We grow a lot.
How many do we plant? We usually plant them weekly or every other week. A lot for market, but we don't. Our florists are not huge sunflower florists.
We do some just like varieties that you don't see typically. And
like
they
the peach variety.
Yeah, white light.
White light.
So occasionally the florist will request those, just because it's something different that they can't find. But we mainly grow those for market.
Yeah,
So I bet
that
we
makes
grow
sense.
1,500 a week. We plant about 1,500 a week, I would say.
Okay, so that's a good amount. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's
it's not huge quantities. But.
Well, and if you're dealing with a lot of florists that like wedding florists and things, sunflowers aren't going to be that big of a hit, except for maybe with, Pro Cut Plum or something like that in the fall when they want that kind of seasonal tone in their flowers. But, well, and I think too, I mean, I know again, some of the florists that you've mentioned have daily business. And I think that's another thing, that if their business is and if you're trying to diversify your customer base, having customers that have daily flowers, and have, because I think of, is it French Market? I think is, and shout out to French Market. I feel like, I mean, they have daily business, and because of that, they need daily flowers. And, where if you have the wedding customers, they may not need them daily, or they may need them towards the weekend. And by having that diversity, you're probably maintaining sales through, where the weddings go down in July.
Right, they do. Yeah.
Those customers are still going strong.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah, it kind of works out. We're in a great area. I mean, we're able to.
It's perfect.
It is. We're close enough to Atlanta that is an easy drive. Obviously Athens. I mean, we really are lucky.
Even our local florists are great. Like our, right around here.
We have one local florist that does weddings and daily. So he has an area where customers can come in and just purchase flowers off the floor, or he does your typical daily deliveries. So he does 2 or 3 weddings a weekend. So he's
Jeff Lott.
Yes. And we love Jeff too. Like, shout out to Jeff again. We love him.
So, well, he was amazing. He did some amazing work. You guys I guess you donated those amazing flowers for the courthouse design and all that. And I know there were some other flowers there, but I mean, I was just impressed. You guys had a lot of the floret flowers also, I noticed. Which I thought was really special to see those. That was the first time I saw them in person, so that was fun. Mine haven't started blooming.
They're fun. They're just great, fun, soft colors. And our florists have loved the zinnias.
And they're great stems.
Yeah, we've had great success with them.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, this has been a lot of fun, and we always love to wrap up our episode with advice questions. And since I have 2 of you, it's kind of like BOGO. And I'm kind of curious, if there's anything you'd like to leave with our listeners.
Go first? Yeah, sure. So I think the biggest thing is to not drag your feet about buying the equipment or things you need. that'll make your job easier. It's really easy to say, oh, that tractor implements several $1,000s. We can keep doing this by hand. But your time is so valuable. And like us and, just taking that step to buy what we need to make jobs more efficient has really been a big
Game
puzzle
changer.
piece and having, allowing us to grow. So yeah, definitely just get what you need to do the job more efficiently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has been a huge game changer for us. Like having the equipment to start has been really easy. Having a tractor and the implements, the bed maker, we purchased one of those almost off the bat. That was
Having a walk-in cooler like that,
oh my gosh,
makes
the
a huge difference.
cooler was a huge benefit. So yeah, that is definitely, I would agree with Sam. That's probably the best advice is those implements. Don't be afraid to just spend a little money and purchase those items to help, because it will take so much time off of your job.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We definitely need more time. Because this is a huge time suck. I mean, time is money with this business. So
right.
Anyway.
Well, and if it takes longer to do things, and before you know it, then you're behind in successions, or you're behind with your plannings, or you're trying to maximize the temperature of the day and get stuff done in a quick, efficient way. I mean, I totally get it. And I can understand that. I know for some people it's scary because of the expense, or, and I know we've had guests on, I think of Lisa Ziegler, who's, always has the story of she paid for her tractor with sunflowers in 1 year.
Right.
And she, and then, just that is just such an important part of what they, do, and making their job easier and more efficient, and which allows them to grow more flowers, which allows them to hopefully become more profitable faster. So
I don't know how you would do it without a tractor. I really don't. I'm not sure how. That's we rely on our tractor so much, so it's been huge for us to have that.
Well, and it makes it easier too for, like next year you're talking about growing even more, and that process of changing beds over and creating, new areas is just I know that can be a challenge. I mean, it's one thing if you're trying to do small areas. I mean, I can kind of get it, but even then, I think I think that's a great piece of advice. Well, y'all, this has been so fun. I look forward to continuing to get to know you guys. And thanks for being on the Flower Podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's been fun.
Yeah.